so much for having us here today. I'm CC Hart, and as Mitch noted, I'm an artist and neurodiversity advocate. I'm a synesthete with many forms. The most predominant is mirror touch synesthesia. And this is Concetta.
Hi, I'm Concetta. Great to meet you all. I'm from New York City, and I've worked collaboratively with CC to create an album of music called Mirror Touch, which we're going to tell you about a little bit more about today.
So, thank you so much. So the process for creating this album, actually, Concetta can dive in here, but we actually just met in person for the first time less than 24 hours ago. We did a lot of our collaboration, high tech these days with Zoom and other media. So why don't you talk about your creative process?
Oh, sure.
I first read about mirror touch synesthesia when I was a teenager. I was reading a book by Oliver Sacks, famous neurologist. And it really spoke to me because I've always felt very extreme empathetic experience. And so the idea, the seed was planted in my mind a while back. And then that tied in with, as I grew and developed as a musician and a composer, answering some of my questions about why am I writing music? What am I trying to achieve, accomplish, and put out into the world? So I contacted CC through some research. I found her name all over the internet about mirror touch synesthesia, and I called her and said, could you describe what the mirror touch synesthesia is like? And I could really identify with what she was describing. And I thought, how can I use my music to help other people better understand this extreme form of empathy and maybe even ignite the empathetic feeling in the listener of the music. So that's the gist of it.
So for those of you who might be unaware of mirror touch synesthesia, it's a distinct form of cross-modal processing, and it comes in different iterations. And so for somebody like me, I'm mirror propriocept, so I will move like the people that I see unintentionally. My muscles will fire, I have no control over it. I also have classic mirror touch, and so there's a woman in the audience who's touching her hair, and you're doing that with your left hand, but I feel it on my right hand as you touch yourself. You touch your hair, the texture shows up for me on my right hand, even though you're using your left. And then I also have mirror sensory pain, and so when I see someone else's injuries, I not only feel them in the zone where they might have that injury, so perhaps you might have a cut on the palm of your hand, I would feel it there. I also feel shocks of electricity that travel down the back of my body, and they follow the peripheral neural pathways. It's been with me since childhood. It's consistent over my lifetime. This is a classic experience with mirror touch. In research by doctors Banissy and Jamie Ward, Michael is from the Goldsmiths at the University of London, and Jamie Ward is at Sussex, University of Brighton. Their research shows that people who have mirror sensory or mirror touch synesthesia have increased empathic ability. And the result of their research shows that, that increased empathy is consistent with the notion that we empathize with others through a process of simulating their experiences within our own mirror neurons. And so let's go from there straight into punk rock music, because I think that's a lovely place to jump off. We empathize with others through a process of simulation. This photograph is from San Francisco, from an event called the Punk Rock Homecoming. San Francisco was a hotbed for punk rock music. And at this event, I was really struck by this photograph of someone in the audience reaching up toward the musician. That impulse to touch, that impulse to find connection is, it's inherent, it's in us. We all have mirror neurons. But this impulse to find connectivity with a musician in this setting is quite interesting, because I think with a music like punk rock, we don't have those performative social constrictions that we often have with classical music, where the audience holds their space and the musicians hold theirs. You know, punk has always sort of pushed boundaries, and this idea that someone would reach up out of the audience to touch the musician really struck me. And so, again, you know, we empathize with others through a process of simulation. In this photograph from the punk rock homecoming, this musician, Cecilia Kuhn, who is part of a seminal San Francisco punk rock band, is completely different musical moment at this event. She's reaching out from the stage as she performs to touch the hand of someone in the audience, like this gesturing toward connection and empathy. So I was really struck by this image of Cecilia and the way that, for me, it embodies both my mirror touch experience and the concept of empathy. So what I did with that photograph, and by the way, this is Cecilia, and this is the band Frightwig, and they really were a thing. In fact, Kurt Cobain, when he was on MTV in 1993 and Nirvana recorded their live album, he wore a Frightwig t-shirt. So Frightwig was quite a well-known band at the time. So here's Cecilia. I took that photo and cropped it. I rotated it so that it appears that she's reaching down from the heavens. And then I took the photograph, layered it with pencils, erased some of the pigment, covered it in paraffin, and blasted it with a heat gun to create the artwork that's in our quiet room. And I wanted to show this piece today because it really speaks to me about the idea that ultimately in this artwork, it's a musician on stage reaching out to a person in the audience, because the process of participating in music, in musicking, as we learned earlier today, in musicking, it is empathic and interconnective.
Music can also be interdisciplinary. One of the ways that I can better connect with my audience is by bringing in other types of art besides music, besides vibration, to help translate the experience to any person in the audience. So I commissioned a visual artist to make some artwork in response to the songs on Mirror Touch. And so you'll actually see the postcards in the quiet room where you can see different close-ups of what is actually a larger painting. And then this is the album artwork. So I'm drawing in a visual element. If some people connect with the music in that way, they can flip through a booklet and see. Do you have some of the other?
Yeah, I do. I do actually, but
oh, okay.
We've got a chance for you to talk about the composition next. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
okay.
Yes.
I also wanted to mention that the other interdisciplinary elements that are brought in are storytelling and performance art when it is performed live. And I loved what Peter was saying about how stories influence the future, because that's also a really deep part of why I put storylines into my music. Did you want to? Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is a little bit about like the actual nuts and bolts of making these compositions. They fit into what I might describe as a genre of art song. They're using lyrics as part of as a way to influence the melody of the music. I'm using acoustic 5-string violin and my voice, and that's a personal choice because I grew up playing and singing as a really symbiotic connection. I really think of, in the same way that technology is an extension of our bodies, I really think that my violin is an extension of my voice, so I'm performing in that way. And then I'm using some woodwinds for different sounds and textures, and using a lyrical process called word painting. And I like to call it word painting because what I'm talking about when I say storytelling isn't a hardline narrative structure. It's a series of words that evoke meaning for different people, and it's flexible enough that many different people can connect to the storyline and actually put their own storyline into the music. So if I say a word like green, what are some other words that come up for you? You can just shout them out.
Grass.
Grass. Anyone else?
Poison.
Poison.
Green, as such, green.
So like
Nature.
nature, right? Like poison, nature, grass.
Oh.
You can have two completely different interpretations if it's just one word. Now if I juxtapose that word with another word, like if I say green bird, then what do you think?
Jack and the Beanstalk.
Jack and the Beanstalk. So you have all these other associations that will come up. And actually music is like that too. Like if I use a C major chord, that seems pretty simple, but there's a lot packed into a C major chord. We have all kinds of emotional associations with really basically simple, what we might call simple things. There's many, many, many experiences packed into those things. And so I'm starting from a very minimal place with both words and music to invite people to co-compose as they listen to these pieces. So I think of it as word painting and sound painting, and then here's the actual painting, which is my friend Dorothy Rojas, who's a wonderful visual artist, made this painting in response to the different songs and stories on the album. So if you, I actually have some copies of the album if you'd like. They're actually booklets that have the artwork printed with the lyrics alongside them, and you can flip through it as you listen to the music on the album. Did you want to say something else?
No, I also
Okay.
thought it'd be nice just for you to play.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to play an example of one of my compositions. The piece I'm going to play for you is not actually from Mirror Touch, but it's using a lot of the same techniques, and it's from my earlier album, which is called Falling in Time. And if you stick around at 7, I'm going to be playing with some of the woodwind students at the Conservatory for the concert tonight to play some of the pieces from the Mirror Touch album. The piece I'm going to play for you now is called Falling in Time, and it's kind of meant to invoke the kind of delirium and confusion you might feel when you're falling in love, but also when you're losing love all at once. And I hope that makes sense, and I hope you enjoy it. Here we go.
Falling in time, falling in time, falling in a cloud of tomorrow, looking for a key we can borrow, and many days are many lines, too many roads that we could climb. I'm not the one, I'm not the one, I'm not the answer that you'll find, only to wander and unwind, and many days are many lines, too many roads that we could climb.
apologize really quickly. I butchered where Jamie Ward is a professor. He's at the University of Sussex, Brighton. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about mirror touch synesthesia, I highly recommend you research Ward and Banissy in the work that they've done in this field. Now we would love to thank Jeffa and Jussi and Umit for organizing Convergence. And we're really grateful to the Conservatory for the chance to be here. And as noted, Concetta will be playing in the concert later, which will be really quite wonderful. And if you'd like to find either of us, this is where we can be found. What a pleasure it's been to finally get to do something with you after all of our years of talking together.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.